What if holiness doesn't live in churches, but in kitchens? What if the most sacred things were the things you stopped noticing? This is not just about a tomato. It's about the poetry of what sustains us and how we forgot to see it. Pablo Neruda didn't write this as a joke. He wrote it because, when the world collapses, someone still has to make lunch. When ideologies fall, someone still chops onions. When hearts break, someone still boils water. This is a poem about survival, about the sacred ordinary. The year was 1954. Neruda was no longer the boy of poem 20. He was no longer writing about broken hearts. He was writing about what keeps hearts alive. Chile had changed. The world had changed. The scars of World War II still lingered. The Cold War had divided the planet. In Latin America, poverty wasn't a concept. It was the street, the kitchen, the mirror. Neruda, once the poet of grief, had become the poet of bread, of salt, of tomatoes. This was his Elemental Odes period, a poetic revolution, a manifesto of the invisible. Why? Because he realized that revolutions don't just happen in battlefields. They happen in kitchens, in marketplaces, around the dining table. While politicians argued, someone was cutting garlic. While borders shifted, someone was peeling potatoes. The world survives because someone chooses to cook, and that is an act of resistance, of love, of poetry. Neruda once said, "I learned that even in the face of death, someone has to prepare the soup." This isn't just a poem about tomatoes. It's about honoring what keeps us alive when everything else falls apart.
The street filled with tomatoes, midday, summer, light is halved. Like a tomato, its juice runs through the streets. In December, unabated, the tomato invades the kitchen. It enters at lunchtime, takes its ease on countertops. Among glasses, butter dishes, blue salt cellars, it sheds its own light, benign majesty. Unfortunately, we must murder it. The knife sinks into living flesh, red viscera. A cool sun, profound, inexhaustible, populates the salads of Chile. Happily it is wed to the clear onion, and to celebrate the union we pour oil, essential child of the olive, onto its halved hemispheres. Pepper adds its fragrance, salt its magnetism. It is the wedding of the day. Parsley hoists its flag. Potatoes boil vigorously. The aroma of the roast battles the bouquet of the lettuce. And so, the day's repast is prepared in the rhythm of this summer symphony. The tomato, the star of earth, recurrent and fertile star, displays its convolutions, its canals, its remarkable amplitude and abundance. No pit, no husk, no leaves or thorns. The tomato offers its gift of fiery color and cool completeness.
This isn't just about a tomato. It never was. Because Pablo Neruda, the same man who once wrote the saddest love poem in history, is now standing in a kitchen, knife in hand, laughing, smiling, peeling the skin off the sacred ordinary, and saying to all of us, "Look at this. This is poetry." This poem isn't about heartbreak. It's about what holds you together when heartbreak happens. It's about the invisible saints of your life, the hands that chopped onions when you couldn't stop crying, the person who made you soup, not to cure a fever, but to cure loneliness, the smell of garlic in your childhood that told you without words you are safe. It's about how the world keeps spinning, not because of kings, presidents, or billionaires, but because someone, somewhere, chops tomatoes. And you know what Neruda figured out? That survival is the most radical form of love. That maybe the greatest revolution doesn't wear boots, doesn't carry flags. Maybe it smells like simmering garlic, sounds like a knife hitting the cutting board, tastes like forgiveness, with a sprinkle of salt. Because life isn't made of grand finales. It's made of groceries, of markets, of hands washing lettuce. If someone's saying, I know the world's on fire, but sit down, eat, you're alive, and that is resistance, that is poetry. So ask yourself, what if the sacred isn't in the sky, but right here, in kitchens, in markets, in a splash of olive oil, in the redness of a tomato, bleeding joy on a cutting board? What if the most radical thing you'll ever do is love someone enough to feed them? If a tomato deserves a poem, then what about the hands? The hands that built cities, that carved mountains, that raised empires, only to be forgotten. The bones beneath the stone, the invisible who carried the world, but were never invited to live in it. In the next episode, we climb a mountain, not to find gold, not to admire the view, but to search for the ghosts beneath the stones, the hands, the bones, the voices that history tried to erase. Pablo Neruda's The Heights of Machu Picchu, coming next in Enlighten My Silence.